Calling all gardeners, how may I help you?
Hi everybody, welcome to the Calling All Gardeners show. This is the Call-In Gardening Show, and I'm your host, Tyler Penner. You might notice that it's a different host from last week. No, John Wilson didn't get uglier. I'm a totally different guy, Tyler Penner. This is the Call-In Gardening Show. So if you're a gardening aficionado or just an incompetent gardener trying to find out what to do, this is the show to call into. We've got a stacked expert panel. So just pick up that phone, call from Shaw 480-3500, and we're going to try to get to as many questions of yours as we can, and we're going to answer your questions from everything from how do I stop weeds to what should I even grow. We're going to cover all the bases and whatever you want to know in terms of all your gardening needs at home. And like I said, we got a stacked expert panel, starting with Colin Remillard over here. You are one of the owners of St. Leon Gardens?
You betcha.
Okay, and that's a local produce and market center. Great. Your parents founded the business?
You betcha.
Okay, how's business these days?
Good. I mean, this past week was kind of crummy with the weather and all.
Yes.
But other than that, the Mother's Day was great. And as the first year, our four people team took over the business. So it's pretty exciting for us to take that over. But the parents obviously are still helping us out with all the troubling things. But other than that, it's pretty exciting for all four of us. So.
Still in the business until you squeeze them out and start raking
Exactly,
the
yeah.
profits.
Still in business, so whether we want it or not. So.
Classic shark right here.
Yeah.
Watch out for this guy, business master. Up next, we've got Laura Reeves. You grew up in East St. Paul, and your dad introduced you to gardening. Is that right?
Yeah, not so much gardening, but plant identification, wild plant identification. He taught me which ones were native, which ones were wild, which ones kind of belonged in the area, which ones didn't, and which ones were edible and which ones weren't. So.
And you were kind of meant to be a gardener because you live in a town called
Gardenton.
Gardenton.
How appropriate.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. What else are you going to do? You're not going to become a welder in
No,
Gardenton.
no.
Yeah, exactly. But your focus is on weeds. It's not necessarily the actual plants, right? Like you're focused on.
Today it is. I do a lot of wild edibles. I teach courses in wild edible plants, and today I just brought a bunch of weeds from my garden, and I can talk about those for today.
Perfect. Great. Well, looking forward to it. But definitely not least, we've got Carol Bender here. And you apparently got into gardening because your husband didn't send you flowers. Is that right?
That's true.
All right, that's it. Viewers at home, husbands, stop sending your wives flowers. It'll only lead them to plant a bunch of great stuff that you're here to talk about today, right?
That's true, yes.
Perfect. You've judged MBCIB for 7 years. You're a master gardener?
Yes.
Very good, very good. So
that just means you're always learning.
Yeah, oh, okay, there you go. All right, so like I said, our panel is stacked today. And right off the bat, we might as well acknowledge the frozen elephant in the room. It is cold outside today.
Definitely. And
there's frost warnings today. And a lot of people enjoying the weather last week have already planted all their stuff in the ground. So let's start with Colin. What should you do if you've already planted your garden and now it might freeze?
I guess pray or hope for the best. Some people actually will have an easy time if they've got a covered yard, if it's in the shade, or a lot of people have had quite a bit of luck just by a fluke of happenstance that their plants would have survived -1 frost just because their yard was in a particular spot. Otherwise, and I'm sure the other ladies can attest, just cover them up. Maybe planting them was a bit, risky on your part, but that's okay. We all learn. And
that's Manitoba.
That's right. You got to gamble. You got to gamble.
Totally.
So you got to cover them up, or bring them in if you haven't planted them yet, obviously. And if you got containers, just bring them in the garage.
We had a caller before, Janelle. She called in and she asked if she should cover her perennials. You're saying that she should, Laura? Do you think she should?
It depends. Some perennials, if they're native plants, they can usually survive a frost. And like I say, have no fear, the weeds will always survive.
Yeah.
Even if you lose everything else, you'll always have weeds.
Yeah, I guess Manitoba's teaching us another lesson, eh?
Mm-hmm.
Just when you think.
Patience.
Yeah. We're always counting our eggs before they hatched.
Yep.
And then all the chickens die. That's Manitoba weather for you. Kidding, of course. First off, let's start with you, Colin. You brought in quite a display of of plants. You're here to talk about microgreens.
Yeah, I mean, it's less gardening focused. It's more like reaping the benefits of gardening. This is microgreens, and many of you are going to be familiar with this. It's essentially a first sprout, a few days sprout of some edible, tasty plants. Right here on my right is the most popular one. It's the pea shoots. This is essentially a pea, which is also the seed of the pea plant, of course, planted, spread around in a little container. We sell them like this. People just kind of cut them off, eat them as a snack, eat them in salads, eat them in sandwiches, and it's very, very tasty. They take about, let's say, 8 to 10 days to sprout to this size, so it's a very quick crop, and it means it's fresh. It's still in the soil. It's essentially alive still, and you get all the flavors from the pea that's contained within that first pea. So I'll let it pass around. If you guys want to give it a try, it's very tasty. And a lot of people use this for. Do you want to try it, Tyler?
Sure, let's
absolutely. Do it. And so you want to make sure you don't get the soil and the roots, of course, because it's kind of nasty. But just grab a pair of scissors, leave them on your window shelf. Use them within a week, because after a while they kind of get too lanky and soft, and the flavor changes a little bit. And I'll show you some more example here. This is wheatgrass. The flavor is, in my opinion, a little less pleasant, but it's the one with the most nutrients. It's packed with I mean, you guys can try these guys, but it's packed with vitamin K. And a lot of people, what they do, they put this in smoothies. So we actually sell these mostly in huge, large packs. To the people that, it tastes like grass,
Kind of tastes
essentially.
like grass,
I'm not a big fan of the flavor, but in terms of nutrients, this, I'm sorry. That's the one, though.
Oh, I love eating grass.
Yes, yeah. And so you would just cut that up. They blended them in smoothies with fruits, and you get a bit of that fiber and carotene, which is the stuff you found in carrots, good for the eyes and stuff, and a lot of vitamin K, which is something you usually get in dark greens. I've got here, this is one, I wanted to show you folks just different stages of growing. This is not quite ready yet. It needs another maybe 3 days of sprouting. This is actually a corn kernel planted. This one, I don't know if you guys are tired of eating stuff.
No,
but,
I'm
I'll
not.
pass it. This is a
try
nice
everything.
sweet corn. And the reason why it's yellow is because we actually grow them in the dark. Tyler, are you tired yet or no?
Almost there.
Almost there. Okay, I'll stop.
That's
Oh,
my
that's
veggie intake for the
different.
year.
Wow.
Veggie intake for the year. The reason why they're yellow is we grow them in the dark, so they don't get the chlorophyll there. Just because we like the color of the yellow. And you see the sweet
It's
and
really
the bitter
sweet.
at the same
Yeah,
time.
that's
So we really like these guys. They're less popular because they look kind of freaky, but they're excellent.
Kind of tastes like corn.
It tastes exactly like corn, and very sweet too. So it's very exciting. I've got myself some mustard here, my favorite, and some arugula. Nice bitter, strong flavors here. Mustard, personally, as you can see on the show on the screen, I use in my hamburgers. You can use. I'm a big fan of Dijon mustard myself, so I put way too much. But this is kind of a nice addition or substitute, and a little bit in salads never hurts. It's a really powerful flavor, so do be careful. Because it can overtake your food. But as a garnish, in sandwiches, excellent. Arugula, not my favorite, but the most popular actually. After the pea shoots, nice smoky, dark flavor. Sometimes to garnish meats and stuff like that. And I've got radishes here, which taste exactly like a radish, but packed and concentrated. So the reason why these are so popular, like I said, is the flavor, concentrated flavor, and as well, you get all the nutrients that are concentrated in such a small twig. If you get a full-grown pea plant, the nutrients are spread around a huge plant, whereas this, you get about 40 times the nutrients, vitamin K, vitamin C, and vitamin E in this product, and it applies to all of these guys. So it's quite fantastic.
Now, does any of this stuff grow in the wild, or just you got to buy the seeds? And
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be hard to catch them at the right time, I guess.
Yeah,
I mean,
okay.
peas, I guess there's wild peas, that they won't be the same as these guys here. And this is actually just regular, I think it's red wheat. Which is a lot of the guys grow. But essentially, this is grown in, my dad actually grows these guys, Dennis, his name, and he grows them in his house under grow lights. And so it just takes about, like I said, 8 to 10 days. And so it's a really nice quick crop, and it's super fresh, and it's spray-free. You don't even have to spray it because there's no bugs, no fertilizer. It just, the seed itself has everything you need, and it's really awesome.
Interesting. That might have been a dumb question.
No.
I don't know.
No worries.
But I'm here to talk to the people who want to know these dumb questions.
Absolutely.
We're here to get people into gardening, not just speak to gardening experts, I guess. But if you just joined us and you're wondering how to call, take a look at this right now.
Do you have a gardening question for one of our experts on the show today? We would love to hear from you. Please phone in to register your question by dialing 204-480-3500. Leave a message and volunteers will call you back as soon as they can. That's when we put your question out live on air. You can also register your question online. Go to shaw.ca/Shaw TV Winnipeg or check our Facebook page. Shaw TV is grateful for the support of our community sponsors.
Well, welcome back. Now that you know how to call in, don't be afraid to. Just grab that phone and call in. We've got experts waiting for you to, field your questions pretty much. Speaking of callers right now, I think we've got Gord on the line, and you've got a question for the panel?
Yes, I do. First time I've ever lived in an apartment, and I've started stuff from seeds here, like beets and rhubarb and tomatoes. And when should I be putting this stuff outside?
So he's growing stuff inside. When should he put it outside?
So I guess we talked a little bit about this before the show, but essentially it's a bit early, especially considering the awful weather in front of us tonight. I should be in the greenhouse putting flowers away, but I'm here. So my team's taking care of it, so I'm grateful they're there. So I wake, depends on your character, of course. If you're a gambling person or if you're a little more reasonable or wise, you can take your time. You can plant it maybe in a couple of weeks. The rule is obviously Labor Day weekend, but some people, especially in this year where it's been so nice, I would say maybe give it a try. I don't know, if you guys disagree there.
It depends if you're putting them outside in pots. If they're easy to bring in, then maybe go ahead. But for me, I usually wait till after the May long weekend or until the May long weekend and judge the weather from there.
I think that's a good idea. Plus, you want to harden them off gently, not just set them out in full wind or full sun immediately. So put them out for a few hours at a time and then go from there.
There you go, Gord. You heard it here. Maybe give it a bit of time, at least a couple of days, since we're apparently it's October outside. So maybe give it a little while. Keep those calls coming in. We got a bunch right now. And again, if for some reason you call in and you can't get in, because we're fielding a lot of calls and emails, we're here every Thursday, and we will be for the next few weeks at least. So we're not going anywhere. Right now, though, we've got an email question from Arthur. High Tech Arthur asks, how many hours of sunlight is considered full sun or part shade? So you hear these terms a lot. Arthur wants some exact figures. What can you help him?
I would say full sun is considered to be 6 hours and more. So partial shade would probably be around the 4 hours a day, and below that would be shady. So at least 6 hours for full sun.
And then part sun, just a few hours?
About 4 hours a day.
Is there a time of day for this, or just?
No, just looking at sunshine. And
just looking at the sun.
Right, yes.
Well, there you go. There you go, Arthur. We've got part sun, part shade. So, like Carol says, you don't want to just throw them out into the sunlight again. What would happen if you did? They would just,
They go into shock.
They would go into shock. Okay.
Pretty much. It'll take them a while to recover, so you actually slow down your whole season rather than speeding it up. So you are pretty much just as well to put things out later.
All right. Speaking of emails, we got another email. This one's from Susan. She asks, which trees or bushes are easiest to root from a branch, and which are the hardest? So which trees are easiest to root from a branch? Do you understand that sentence? Does that terminology make sense to you? root from a branch?
Yeah.
I've never rooted a whole bunch of trees
Yeah.
myself. I know willows are really easy, and I have also done elderberry. But as for which are the easiest and which are the hardest, I'm not really sure on that.
Okay.
I don't know how to answer that one.
No, I can't really answer that to
Yeah.
to the degree that somebody should.
Yeah.
Some seem to just voluntarily pop up, which you really don't want. But for example, some of the cherry trees do sucker, and also you can cut the tender tips off them and root them that way. You know, you soak them and then put them in a rooting hormone, but it doesn't mean it's easy. So I couldn't tell you which is easiest.
Sorry, Susan. Not no concrete answers, but you know, there's a lot of answers. Remember to call in with those gardening questions. You can phone 204-480-3500, 480-3500 for you at home right now. And just to let you know, this is a volunteer show. These panelists are not getting paid, except for the sandwiches in the lobby, which were delicious, and that's all I need for payment. But yeah, they're created by volunteers, and if you want to volunteer for a Shaw, TV show to work on the crew or to participate, just email createtv@shaw.ca, and that's actually the same email address that you're going to email your questions to, createtv@shaw.ca. Or if you're on Facebook right now, just hit up the Shaw TV Facebook page and let us know. We've got another caller on the line right now. Arlene, you've got a question?
Yes, I do. We have some problems with our tomatoes. They're beautiful, and they get really big, but at the bottom they have like a rot, and it's not any kind of a bug or a slug or anything like that. It's just a rot. And we have been told that it could be maybe a lack of calcium, but we've tried that and we still are getting it.
I'd be more.
Like it's right at the bottom of the tomato.
What have you guys done to add calcium in the soil?
Yeah, we went and we bought some calcium or whatever it is and put it in the soil, and but we're still and not all of them get it. Like there's some that don't get it.
I'm not sure. Usually, I would put calcium when I transplant my tomato plant right in the hole when I put my little plants. But I use like a product called Taco Tomatoes, really, really popular stuff, organic calcium, and it essentially lets the tomatoes absorb the fertilizer that's in the soil, which is usually the lack of calcium that leads to blossom and rot. But I would be confused why it would not work, unless you guys could see. Would it be maybe too late an application of calcium, or not enough, or because the blossom and rot is essentially a lack of nutrients. But you could put as much fertilizer as you want in the soil, and if the tomato plant doesn't have calcium to absorb the fertilizer, it will have that blossom and rot. So the calcium permits the tomato plant to absorb the nutrients. So either the calcium wasn't applied perhaps at the right time, or not enough, or there's not enough nutrients in the soil itself, and the calcium isn't letting the tomato eat anything. So maybe add some compost, add some slow release fertilizer, some vegetable focus fertilizer, organic stuff, and see where to go from there. Unless, Carol, could it be something else?
It could be part of irregular water. It could be an issue. I don't know. Some people put crushed eggshells in their soil as well, which is another source of calcium. And sometimes it just seems to be the luck of the draw. But
yeah, like a lot of people have put eggshells, and then I don't know if there's enough calcium in there. Often they come back to me and they're like, "Oh, the eggshells didn't work, but this calcium stuff did." So I don't know if it's a question of numbers, if the eggs we buy nowadays have less calcium in their shells, or I don't know what the problem is, but like Carol said, like maybe it's just the luck of the draw. Sometimes plants do things that we cannot explain.
Totally. But calcium's the answer.
Yeah, but Arlene, I'm sorry if the answer is the same as you've tried.
Yeah. Keep trying, Arlene.
Yeah.
It'll happen eventually. Got another caller on the line. Carol, are you with us?
Yes.
Great. Do you have a question for the panel?
Yes. We live in Charleswood, and like a lot of our neighbors, we have big backyards, and we just can't seem to keep the deer under control. Our flower beds are all surrounded by chicken wire, and it just looks hideous, but you do what you do. But we've tried so many things, and we can't seem to keep them out of our flower beds.
Winnipeg wildlife causing more problems.
Yeah, well, we called the resource man, and he said he'd come out gladly and dispose of them, but he'd have activists on his back too, so we can't do anything.
Yeah. I don't know if you want to kill them, but
No.
There's got to be a way to keep them out of your garden at least, is there?
Well, we've got an 8-foot fence around our garden, and they can hop that.
Oh, really?
8 feet. Wow.
Charleswood is overrun with deer, and when there's a lack of food, they'll do what they can, what they need to
Well,
get
we
it.
have neighbors that are feeding them, and that's what's our problem.
That doesn't help either.
Try to get rid of your neighbors, Carol. No, kidding.
Might be easier.
They have that problem is quite prevalent in Pinawa, and they've resorted to electric fence.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
But that an electric fence on a property, it doesn't look too good. Like you said, Carol, it's kind of ugly with the chicken wire, right?
yeah.
I do have electric fence around my garden. It's 4 feet was good enough for a while, but after 2 years, they managed to find a way over it. And it doesn't matter. You can put as many electrical strands as high as you want, but if the deer's not touching the ground when they hit it, it's not gonna shock them. So,
Is there any sort of plant that you can plant to keep because there's plants to keep cats out of the yard? I saw that on last week's show, but I guess deer are a different breed. They're going to eat whatever's in front of them, right?
some people suggest, 1 meter or 2 meters of raspberries. They might not want to walk through that, but that can be hard to control as well. So, yeah.
I don't know, Carol. You might want to invest in a dog or something.
Oh, we have a dog.
Oh,
And
really?
They just look at her,
A bigger dog?
and the neighbors. We got new neighbors, and they've got a small child, so we think twice about the electric fence.
Oh, yes.
Right, yeah.
Well,
Well, if anybody has any ideas, we'd appreciate it.
we will keep you posted on that. And actually, callers, if you're calling in and you got any ideas on how to solve the deer problem in Charleswood without resorting to murder, then give us a call in,
Did Carol have
because
something?
that's always
Like,
the last resort.
There's chemicals way to do it, but it's not ideal.
The anything I've seen as far as deer repellent, they really don't work. They'll gag you, but they don't deter the deer. As far as plants, there's just an order of preference which ones they're going to eat first.
Yeah.
So they'll eat just about anything if they're hungry. And we're looking at stucco wire, for example, and building it up higher if you've got smaller areas. But if you're looking at a very large garden, you really don't have much choice. They will get you.
Yeah.
The other thing is venison.
Yeah. All right. Well, you know what? We got plenty more callers and questions to answer, but right now, take a look at this, and we'll see you after the break.
Do you have a gardening question for one of our experts on the show today? We would love to hear from you. Please phone in to register your question by dialing 204-480-3500. Leave a message and volunteers will call you back as soon as they can. That's when we put your question out live on air. You can also register your question online. Go to shaw.ca/Shaw TV Winnipeg or check our Facebook page. Shaw TV is grateful for the support of our community sponsors.
Welcome back to Calling All Gardeners. If you guys are just joining us, we've been fielding questions from you guys calling in to Shaw TV 204-480-3500. Call in. We've got a all-star lineup of botany experts here today to field all your questions. One of them being Carol, and you brought in some cherries today. What you're making some special drinks out of cherries?
Yes. We have at the Daylily Gardens, we test different Manitoba hardy fruit trees. So one of the things we've done is to test the dwarf sour cherries that were released by the University of Saskatchewan. And the Carmine Jewel was the first one they released in 1999. And after the 2003, they released the rest of the romance series. There's Cupid, Romeo, Juliet, Valentine, Crimson Passion. They're all dark sour cherries, but the flavor is intense. The coloring is incredible. You don't have to use coloring to deal with them, and they are hardy in Manitoba. So the shot that you'll see is of the Carmine Jewel blooming in our gardens in Beausejour. So we have a whole row on the south side of the gardens, which is a 200-foot long stretch, and between the cherry trees we have blizzard mock orange. So it's a gorgeous area to look at. And if we could see the next slide. This is what the cherry trees look like. They just hang. The Carmine Jewel is the smallest cherry, and all these cherries are between 6 and 8 feet tall. They were done that way so that they could be used for mechanical harvesting as opposed to being taller. So Carmine Jewel is the smallest cherry, but it is also very, very prolific, and it's got the smallest pit. So this is it's the first one to actually produce the fruit to ripen, and it happens in July. It turns a gorgeous red, but the idea is to leave it alone until August when the flavor, the sugar content is up. So people come along and try it, and they think, dear God, that's sour, but it's, give it some time. So this is a shot along the gardens where you can see dwarf blizzard mock orange blooming in between the cherries. So the cherry trees, when they're done blooming, they're still a nice looking ornamental tree as well. So you get the benefit of flowers, fruit, and just looking good.
Why don't you tell us a bit about this? We've got a device here.
So
what's
just
going
to
on
show
there?
you, these are what we call Evans cherries, and they are taller than the dwarf sour cherries. They're a bit paler in color, these are a bit bigger, and these have already been pitted. And these are Carmine Jewel cherries, and you'll see the color is just incredible, and the flesh is a dark red as well. So the juice of these is beautifully intense. This is what the juice looks like. The color is exquisite, so you can make fantastic cherry juice, and it is full of antioxidants. It also makes into a fairly reasonable liqueur. So when you get these cherries, if I could show one more slide there, I think the cherry trees produce like crazy. Now this is just a small ice cream pail here, and the trees are loaded. Evans is actually more prolific, but if you get one of these cherry pitters from local sources, you put one cherry at a time in here and you go like this. And this is really a test of your patience and your love of family and many other things. So, having said that, then you can go over here to this little gem, and you put the cherries in this little hopper, and this goes down in here and it pushes it. There's the pits go down in here, and cherry shoots out here into a Pyrex dish or something. When you do this, it's a good idea to put newspaper around here, possibly on the floor, because you will get juice spattering a large range, but it just beats the heck out of doing this method. So this is a locally available cherry stoner. This is a better version of the same thing, and if you go on the internet, you can pick that up in a few days. So I would say definitely get a proper stoner. And these things are so easy to grow. It takes about between 5 and 7 years to get from a little tree to a gorgeous tree. And then you can, as they mature, you can chop the middle older branch down, and then the suckers will grow up and rejuvenate the tree. One of the downsides is deer do like them. So when they're young, we put tomato cages around. So when they're very young, we used oversized T-shirts around the tomato cage. Then we got double tomato cages, one on top of the other, like inverted, and used other netting. Now we're up to stucco wire because the deer and I are having an argument. So that seems to work for the time being. Because once they get bigger, the deer are more reluctant. They like the tiny, delicate shoots.
That's
But
great.
they're excellent.
Yeah, excellent. So about how long by the time you plant the cherry plant until you're drinking liqueur on your back porch, do you think?
This would be about 5 years.
5 years, okay.
Yes. The liqueur doesn't take that long, of course, but the cherries do. But you can get Evans, that'll still make a liqueur. And of course, if you're doing that and you've gone to all this fuss, because a liqueur is just when you're tired of pitting cherries, because if you get pails of them, you will get tired of doing it. So you just take a jar, fill it full of cherries with the pits in, and then you take a cup and a half of sugar and fill it full of vodka and put it away.
Nice.
And that will give you a very nice liqueur. Then when you're done, you save the cherries, take the pits out, and make Black Forest cake. So there's no waste.
Well, look out in 2021. I'm going to have a party at my place. We've actually got a caller on the line right now. Thank you so much for that, Carol, by the way. Zoriolo? Am I
Yes, it is.
Yeah, was that a right pronunciation of your name?
That's the right pronunciation.
Okay, that was pretty good. I mean, give me some credit here. But anyway, sorry. You have a call. You have a question for the panel.
Yes, I'd like to know. I would like to know for edible flowers what I can grow with my herb garden to brighten up for desserts and salads.
What kind of
What flowers can I grow with them?
Nasturtiums are pretty good.
Yeah, I know begonias too. I think it's the female begonias, the ones with only a few petals. Very, very. I guess it's sweet bitter. I don't know. It's a really cool taste, and just the young flowers are delicious.
And daylilies. The flowers of daylilies. Daylilies are edible. The yellow ones are more of a lemon flavor, and the red ones are more of a peppery taste.
Wild bergamot is also good, also known as bee balm. People plant. It's a type of mint people plant usually in their wildflower gardens. It's a perennial, and those ones taste like oregano. I call it the pizza plant. Petunias are also good. Not petunias. Pansies are also edible. Violets are edible, and carragana. If you have carragana in your yard, those taste like peas. They're really good. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for the call.
Something to start with.
Yeah.
That's strange. I see flowers all the time. I've never thought to just bend down and try to eat one to see if it's edible. But
You
I
should
guess
probably know what it is first
they're not
before
all
you do
all
that.
right.
delicious. They're not all.
I should just go eating random
They're not all
flowers.
safe.
Some are poisonous.
Okay. Well, I'll be the judge of that. We'll see
Yes, you
about
will.
that. You know what? Actually, right now we got an email question from Gloria. She asks, is there such a thing as over-fertilizing, and how often should she fertilize? So she doesn't specify what she's planting, but I guess in general.
Like essentially, if I'm correct, like you want to make sure you're careful with how much salt you're putting in your soil. Like if you're putting too much fertilizer, it will wreck the quality of your soil. I know for veggies, I often use just a slow release, vegetable focused fertilizer with a high middle number, of course. And so you want to make sure that you're not you're diluting it properly. Look at the instructions, obviously. You're not putting straight fertilizer liquid into when you're watering your plants. And if you're doing slow release, just sprinkle it like it was pepper crumbs or whatever, pepper bits on a steak. And you shouldn't worry too much about it. And make sure to add compost in your soil pretty fairly regularly. And if your soil is becoming too acidic or not acidic enough, do some pH testing just to check it out. And then you might be playing too much with the alkaline levels in the soil due to too much fertilizer, so be careful in that sense.
Sure.
Yeah, she didn't say what she was growing, but if it's native perennial plants, like prairie plants, they don't like a lot of fertilizer at all. They're used to growing in poor soils.
That's true.
So any amount of fertilizer would probably harm them.
Most importantly, good advice, read the instructions on the baggie pot.
Yes.
That always helps out the situation. Right now we've got Doug on the line. How you doing, Doug?
I'm doing pretty good.
Oh, that's great. Sound enthusiastic already. No, I'm kidding, Doug. Do you have a question for the panel?
Yes, I do. Thanks for taking my call. I have a cottage north of Gimli, and I'm a big fan of hydrangeas, and I was just wondering if I can plant hydrangeas in plastic containers instead of in the ground. The plastic containers are about 18 inches deep and 18 to 20 inches on the top. And I was told that they would not survive the winter if they're planted in containers. So that's the answer that I want to my question. The containers would face west, so they would get direct sun in the afternoon, and also there's a few trees that would give it some shade. So if I can't plant them in containers, what other perennials can I plant in containers?
Thanks, Doug. He's got containers.
The reason you're not putting these hydrangeas in the ground after this summer, is there a reason that you're not doing that?
Oh, sorry. I think we lost Doug.
Okay. The hydrangeas won't survive unless they're in the ground for the winter. And as far as anything else in the container, it's going to depend on what he plans to do with it. There are very few plants that you can leave in a container for over winter and have them survive.
Mm-hmm.
You would have to bring them in and maybe put them in storage or something, but
Unless, again, you're talking about native Manitoba plants, prairie plants. I have wild onions. I have dotted blazing star, gaillardias. They're all in a container. They've been in a container above ground for 12 years, I think, and they're doing just fine. They keep spreading and.
Like what we have to know is like underground, although it's like -40 and we're all wearing parkas, for the roots of these non-native plants, perennials, it's about -10. It's nice and cozy. So a lot of these guys, the roots are fine. But if you're putting them in a container, the whole container is at -30, -40.
Yeah.
And like Carol and Laura said, a lot of them are just not going to make it. So you have to understand, like under the ground, it's actually quite cozy. So that's why some people do what they do. They have, I guess, they have removable containers from the ground to the pots, and so, or I guess to the patio, I mean. And so they've got these containers that look nice, appealing. They put them on their deck, and when comes fall, they place them in the soil, kind of cover them up a little bit, and keep them safe for the winter. Or like it was mentioned, bring them in the garage and keep them safe for the winter.
Sure. Well, there you go, Doug. So, yeah, bring them in the garage and hopefully keep them warm. You know, try to keep them warm. I know it's tough to do in Winnipeg sometimes, especially north of Gimli. Up next, we've got Mitch. You're on the line. How you doing, Mitch?
All right.
You have a question for the panel?
Yeah. How long does it take to grow asparagus? And what should I do to it through the growing season?
Yeah. So from root, typically 3 years. And third year, you get some nice thick asparagus. You can also buy them second year. We sell them at our greenhouse at St. Leon Gardens on 419 St. Mary's Road. Got to do the plug. I think we sell second year seedlings of asparagus. So they're very, very skinny, so not edible yet. And they've got the seeds at the tip. They look a little bit like an asparagus. The stem certainly does. So you plant that. What they do is after, at the end of I think it's at the fall, I'm not sure, they seed. So they'll spread as the years go by. And theoretically, on the third year, you should have asparagus roots thick enough that every couple days, every day sometimes, if they're really healthy, you can just cut off and you can eat. And as the plant matures, it will grow and spread. But from root, typically, in theory, it's 3 years. And you can buy second-year plants that in a year or two are going to give you pretty healthy tasting and really nice asparagus. And that stuff grows so quickly that it's crazy. The farmers we buy them from and we sell at our market, they say they cut them every morning, and at night, the next day, they cut them again, and we just get fresh asparagus all the time. So,
yeah, 3 years, Mitch. That's what you're looking until you're just rolling in the asparagus. So hang in there.
Okay, and
oh yeah, go ahead.
One more. How long does it take to grow cantaloupe? I heard it takes as long as pumpkin.
Yeah.
Cantaloupe, pumpkin.
Yeah.
67 days from seed, I think, is the shortest one that you see on.
Nice.
And after that, that's when it's ready to eat, supposedly.
But are most varieties like 80 days kind
Yes.
of thing? Yeah, most varieties.
67 is about the shortest, and then
What's
80.
the name of the 67 day?
I can't remember,
Okay.
but I was always looking for the fastest result.
Yeah. Awesome, yeah.
Yeah.
And then similar with watermelon, I suppose. Just usually it's about 80 days.
Yes,
so,
that's correct.
any squash, essentially.
So yeah, you're looking at about 80 days, Mitch, unless you get one of these ultra fast cantaloupes that Carol's got tucked away somewhere. Okay, we're going to take one more email question right now. And speaking of pumpkins, we were just on the topic. Laura hopes to grow some pumpkins for Halloween. Do you guys have any pumpkin growing tips for her?
It depends if you're going for the, is it in Morden, the Morden Pumpkin Festival? If you're going for the big guys or if you just want a few. Yeah. I don't know the tricks for the big guys, for the huge, 100-pound, the monsters. I don't know the tricks. I know you want to have one fruit, one pumpkin per plant, and it's all about cross-pollination. But in terms of medium-sized pumpkins, you guys can correct me, but essentially it's often good to have 2 plants just so they increase the pollination. But I think it's possible to have one plant, right? Because often a lot of the modern varieties have both male and female flowers, right. So they can pollinate themselves, but we're told it's often good to have 2 plants just to help it out a little bit.
And again, so that's 80 days. So 80 days from Halloween, you can put it in, or should you 80 days before Halloween, you know what I mean?
80 days before Halloween.
Before Halloween, okay. So you're looking at what?
It can freeze before Halloween pretty heavy though, so I wouldn't go from Halloween. I would go from when you think the first frost is going to be.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in Winnipeg, you're looking August 1st.
They can stand a little bit of frost, but yeah, you want to pick them before they freeze.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look out for the frost, everybody. Sorry, Carol, go ahead.
The other thing is you go to your greenhouses and get some seedlings. That shortcuts your process.
Oh, yeah.
That's true.
There you go.
I've always grown pumpkins by fluke. Last year I didn't think I was going to get any, and next thing I knew I had 50, so.
Nice. How many plants did you have?
8, I think.
8, wow, that's pretty good.
9 maybe,
nice.
yeah.
It's a coincidence, because I think I ate 9 slices of pumpkin pie last Thanksgiving. Very odd. By the way, you can also email your questions to createtv@shaw.ca. Remember to include your first name and any pictures you might have. We've got the technology to show your pictures, so if you've got a plant that's doing something weird and you want to say, hey, look at this, what is this? We can do that. So just email us here at createtv@shaw.ca. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back after this.
Do you have a gardening question for one of our experts on the show today? We would love to hear from you. Please phone in to register your question by dialing 204-480-3500. Leave a message and volunteers will call you back as soon as they can. That's when we put your question out live on air. You can also register your question online. Go to shaw.ca/ShawTV Winnipeg or check our Facebook page.
Welcome back to Calling All Gardeners. This is the Call-In Garden Show. We've been here with the panel the whole time. When it comes to weeds, my dad always told me, gas them all and let God sort them out. But this next person, our next panelist, Laura Reeves, you've got secret uses for some weeds that everyone pretty much has.
Well, I don't know that they're so secret, but yeah, definitely everyone has weeds, and there are a lot of different uses for them. And most of I would say all, but I don't know what everyone has in their garden. So I would say most of the weeds we have in our garden are edible. And most of them are also more nutritious than the things we plant in their place.
So they're not just a nuisance, they have a use.
They have a use, and like I say, when all else fails, your garden fails, it drowns or it dries out, there's always weeds to take advantage of. There's been times where my garden, what I planted was lousy, the deer got it or it flooded or something, but there were always weeds I could harvest and fill my pantry with those.
It looks like you brought some snacks here.
I did bring a few snacks, yeah. So everyone's of course familiar with dandelions. Dandelions, almost every part of the dandelion is edible except really the flowering stem. You could eat it, but it's not that good. The leaves are super high in iron. If you go on the National Nutrient Database from the U.S. Department of Agriculture, they have all the leafy greens, both cultivated and wild greens listed there, and all their nutrient compositions. And dandelion is actually, out of all the things listed on there, dandelions have the highest iron content. So anyone who's low in iron, needs a little boost, I would suggest eating the dandelion leaves. They can be very bitter, but I found the leaves that are growing in more shady areas are a lot less bitter. They have a little bit of a bitterness, but it's easily dealt with. I've also heard, I haven't tried it yet myself, but you can also soak the leaves in salt water to get rid of some of that bitterness as well. But you can also eat the flowers. I like to wait till they're nice and fully open in the full sun. I usually break them off, say about here, keep a nice little handle on them, and I dip them in pancake batter and deep fry them.
Nice.
Anything deep fried is good, right? So yeah, dandelion fritters are excellent. But you can also you can use just the petals if you want to, instead of the green part can be a little bit bitter, so you can just, between your thumb and your fingers, just kind of roll the petals out. The petals can be added to muffins, pancakes, donuts, all kinds of things like that. Add a little bit of color and a little bit of nutrition as well. They can also be used to make dandelion wine. I haven't done that yet, but it's, like I say, it's more manpower than it's not really hard to do. It just takes time to collect enough flowers to make wine. But my favorite part of the dandelion is actually the root. This root I just gathered today. This is a perfect size root for making dandelion tea or dandelion coffee substitute. We say coffee, but it has no caffeine in it, but it has a similar flavor to coffee. So anything, like the roasted chicory root or that type of thing is very similar to that. So when you're looking for dandelions roots to make the coffee with, you're looking for something that's about finger width. You don't want the really thin roots. This one's all right, but it's starting to get on the thin side here. So you want kind of the thicker roots. So what you would do is you would chop them up into 1/2-inch pieces. If they are fatter roots, you can chop them lengthwise. 1/2-inch pieces, put them on a baking sheet into the oven at 250 degrees for about 2 hours until they smell like they're starting to burn. Then they're just perfectly done. So you can see how white that root is there. This is the roasted root here. You can see that difference in color. So they have to be pretty dark. You want them to be dark all the way through. And then you've got the perfect roast. A lot of people don't realize too that sow thistles, which are related to dandelions, they're those thistles that look like they're prickly but really aren't. They have a milky juice sap in the leaves. They have, instead of a taproot like the dandelion has, they have a long rhizome that spreads just under the soil surface. And they're very similar to dandelion roots. If you break them, you'll see that white milky latex inside. And I just discovered it last year that I was digging these out and throwing them over my shoulder, and I thought, wait a second, these are so similar to dandelions. I bet I could roast them up similarly. So I did. They're super easy to clean, way easier to clean than the dandelion roots. Sprayed them off with the hose, rinsed them off in the sink a little bit, and I chopped them up, put them in the oven and roasted them, and man, were they good. Yeah, so these are the roasted sow thistle roots here. They are quite dark, and they make a really nice coffee substitute. Another thing we can do with the dandelions, we can take the dandelion coffee a little bit further, powder it in the blender, put it through a fine sieve, and we can actually make cocoa from it. So I've made dandelion cake, all kinds of things with the dandelion cocoa. I've made pudding, even flavored icing with it. It's really good. It's kind of a chocolatey coffee sort of a flavor, so it is really good stuff.
And what's that other jar there? You've got
this jar here? Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that portulaca, that cursed octopus weed, is actually edible. It's super high in all kinds of nutrients, especially omega-3 fatty acids. It's also high in magnesium, calcium, manganese, all these things that a lot of people are lacking today. So yeah, they're actually really good. They have a little bit of oxalic acid in them, which makes them a little bit sour. So really succulent, makes a really nice salad just raw. Or what I've done here is, well, mine kind of got away from me in the garden. So they got a little bit taller, so I gathered the stems. I took the leaves off the stems and I pickled them just like dill pickles, and they're super good.
You were saying before the show that between this and pickles,
I prefer these way over pickles.
Bold
and
statement.
It seems that a lot of people do too, because I pass these jars around and they're people are usually reluctant to try it, but once they've tried it, they just keep eating them. So yeah,
well,
those
excellent.
are really good.
Thanks, Laura. There you have it. And so if you're at home munching on Doritos right now, maybe you put that bag away, go in your front yard, roast up some weeds. You never know. Maybe a tasty snack. Right now we've got Mark on the line. Mark, you got a question for the panel? Mark, you there? All right. Well, you know what? While we're getting Mark up, Carly has an email question. Carly asks, I work in an office. What are the best plants to grow in an office setting? So Carly works in an office, probably on the second floor, probably out of town. She wants to know what plant to grow in the office setting. So what's a good plant to grow?
Is it a floor plant? Is it a desk plant? How big would the plant be?
It would probably, I don't know. That's a good question. Yeah. Are
Like
there any,
at our place,
ficus maybe?
Yeah, like at our place, we don't really deal a lot with tropicals, but I know tropicals are really popular for indoor stuff. I know a lot of people right now. The trend is succulents. Tender, hardy, doesn't really matter. The only problem is I would wish this succulent plant would have a bit of sun. I know the fluorescent lights in your office building might not have all the specters you're looking for to at least keep this plant growing. The other thing you can do, really popular right now, it's just caught the trend is air plants. Everyone's really excited about them, and they're very, very cool. The thing you got to remember about air plants is that they do usually grow in tropical climates. So if you're going to buy an air plant, do water it. Just Google it real quick. It'll tell you exactly what to do. But don't just let it be, because we don't live in the Amazon, unfortunately, where they're used to growing, and it's not always humid in our area. So air plants are very cool. You can have some cool globes for your office building, but do keep an eye on them. They don't survive on their own.
Awesome. Well, there you go, Carly. If you're looking for a plant in your office, there you go. Get past the days. Right now we've got Ron on the line. Ron, do you have a question for the panel?
Yep, wondering how do you get rid of slugs in my garden, or can you get rid of them?
Slugs?
Yeah.
Okay. Ron's got a slug problem.
I've never really had a slug problem.
There's all kinds of possibilities. Some work and some don't. Some people put saucers of beer out and they jump in there and drown. Diatomaceous earth or something that's sharp. Sometimes if you have glass mulch around your plants, that's also a deterrent. So largely it's because there's a lot of moisture around that they're prevalent. And I believe, I can't remember what it is you shake on the plants, it'll act as a deterrent as well. But they are a nuisance.
Well, there you go, Ron. Maybe go get
Okay.
just go get a 2-4
right.
and go to war. There you go.
All right.
I'm kidding.
But yeah, diatomaceous earth is a popular.
Yes.
They spread around your garden like a perimeter.
Oh,
and
okay.
it's
I know
just,
some people have used eggshells, but it didn't work because they didn't grind them up fine enough. It has to be ground very fine.
Well, there you go, Ron. Right now we've got another email question from Marilyn. Marilyn says, we have a plum tree that has never produced plums. It flowers beautifully every spring. Can we do anything? She's got a plum tree, no plums. What's going on there?
Perhaps it needs another tree to pollinate. It depends on the kind of tree. It may be a sterile plum that has to have a wild plum or something else to pollinate.
There you go, Marilyn. Maybe get another tree, another male tree to take it out on a date, and then who knows what happens. You might get some fruit out of it, right?
Yeah.
There you go. We've got Dylan on the line. Sorry, we're motoring through these calls right now. We're short on time, and there's so many people who need help. So, Dylan, how you doing?
Hi, I'm doing good.
You got a question for the panel there?
Yeah.
All right, shoot.
What's the best way to grow a tree?
What's the best way to grow a tree? We're getting pretty macro on these questions now. So, like, overall, what's the best way to grow a tree? What kind of tree do you want to grow? You want to grow, Dylan? Hot dog tree?
Just a plain tree.
Plain tree.
Just a plain tree. A lot of plain trees in there. So what do you do with a tree? This is a young gardener in the making. He's just starting out in the gardening world, wants to plant a tree of dreams. What advice do you have for him?
I would suggest he go and get a tree that's about a couple of years old, go to a nursery, and bring it home, prepare the soil where it's going to be. He's probably going to have it in a container. Make sure that it's in a full sun location, and put it in the ground. Make sure the hole is dug at least maybe twice the size of the container, and watered in properly. It has to be watered really well for the first couple of years to be taken care of so it doesn't dry out. Make sure there's no weeds around it. Protect it from, predators and anything else. Mainly a lot of TLC. So, and something that you can see a result. So I know I'm probably sounding like I push cherry trees, but if even a crabapple tree, something that's resistant to fire blight, so you can see flowers, you can see fruit, you can see it'll attract the birds, so you get some benefits.
Just a lot of love. Just got to show your plant love, Dylan. And you got to do a bunch of other stuff. It's not just love.
You want to make sure you research the type of tree it is, whether it grows in damp soils or dry soils. Where does it like to grow? What are its preferences? Full sun, different shade. Some trees like to grow under the shade of other trees better. So it's good to research your type of tree that you're growing first. And to protect them from, like she said, from predators and from weeds too for the first few years, putting mulch around the bottom of them or cages around them if you have a lot of deer in the area. So
sure.
It's all important.
I guess one last thing is to make sure you don't put a really big tree in the middle of a small yard, like know your location.
I was going to say, we're all talking about trees, but if Dylan wants some variety, every year something different, grow some vegetables, grow some tomato trees. So when it comes up, then, change it up every year, because a tree is nice. But if Dylan, sounds a little young, don't want to make up his mind for the future, maybe trying to figure out what he wants to do, maybe try some vegetables, try some annuals, try some smaller plants, and change it every year.
You're young, Dylan. You're going to change.
Can't decide now.
Don't commit to a spruce right off the bat. You gotta get some. The show is going to be this show, Calling All Gardeners. It's going to be on live on the following upcoming dates. So if you don't get your question right now, feel free to call on another date. Next Thursday, May 19th, we're on the air. Thursday after that, May 26th, we're on the air, and June 2nd after that, we're on the air, 6:30 to 7:30 every Thursday. We're gonna be here every Thursday. So just give us a call, and don't worry about it. Your questions will get answers eventually. Thank you so much for coming on the pound, guys. I think do we have time for one more email? Do we have time? No, we're not doing that. Okay, all right. Well, you know what? Like I said, we're gonna get to it next week, and by the breaks, calling every Thursday. Carol Bender, thank you so much for the information on the cherry liqueur. It's great having you out. What do you have planned for this summer? Are you gonna make some more?
Probably.
Okay.
And do a lot of weeding.
Oh, there you go. Now that you found out you can eat them, right? Exactly. Laura, thanks so much for coming out on the show. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. It was fun.
Yeah, it was great. And Colin, thank you. You know what? Maybe another plug for the garden center.
Yeah, 419 St. Mary's Road. We're open 9 to 9 every day, every day of the week. And soon is going to be pretty much time to plant, so swing by. We're all friendly people. And in the summer, we sell local foods, real food we call it, local fruits and vegetables, so swing by. Just beside the Woodcock on St. Mary's Road. So we're just kind of holding the ground there, but it's a great place to be, and it's bumbling and busy, so it's really fun.
Nice. Excellent. Well, thanks a lot, guys. Thanks for tuning in, by the way. Keep your plants warm and keep yourself warm. It's going to be another cold summer here in Winnipeg, Manitoba. Thanks for tuning in. We will see you guys next Thursday, and have a good one.